dealing with some of the issues that are plaguing us in this country. And unfortunately, one of the biggest issues that we seem to be facing today is an unprecedented, ever-growing level of violent crime. This is not an exception to the rule, Senusha. This is not something that doesn't affect us and, shouldn't be on our radar. This is what is happening right here in our homeland. And it's very concerning. It's concerning on so many fronts. It doesn't seem to be any abatement in sight. There doesn't seem to be any end on the horizon. And it seems as if this is our lives, or this is going to be our life from now until, to borrow a phrase from a friend, thy kingdom come. Can we afford this, St. Lucia? Can we afford to live in a country that is ravaged by criminal activity? Doesn't matter where you go, doesn't matter what you do. There seems to be an inundation of violence and crime in our country. Why is this so? Why do we have to go through this? Why do we have to deal with this? Why us? Every time another person loses their life, every time another accident happens, every time we lose a promising young star, these are the questions that family, friends, first responders, ordinary citizens, these are the questions that we ask ourselves. What can we do to change it? In all of the focus on Joyce and Omar, we seem to have forgotten that we've had 2 other murders since then. Because a young man, a national volleyball player, was killed in his home 2 days ago. Homicide number 35. And there are unconfirmed reports of another homicide in George V Park last evening. So, That would take us up to 36. Are we paying attention, St. Lucia? Or are we letting these murders go unnoticed? What is happening in this country? Why aren't we demanding justice for our fallen? Why are we lamenting, hurting, feeling the pain, but suffering in silence? Is this what we deserve? Is this what we voted for? And I know some people, some individuals will say, oh, it's always about politics with you people. But let me ask you a question. Can the Royal St. Lucia Police Force act without being sanctioned by the executive of the government? The answer to that question, my friend, is no. While there might be a separation of powers, there is a sanctioning of powers that comes from one branch of the government to the other. In our case, the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, which is our law enforcement, the courts and the judicial system, which is the judiciary, they grant the power to law enforcement. That's why we have a ministry of national security. That's why we have a minister of national security. Not for good looks, but because that is where the power to proceed comes from. The police cannot act on their own accord, not without the sanctioning of the executive branch of government. And don't you ever forget it. What does the Prime Minister say all the time? He is tasked with providing policy direction. The Minister of Home Affairs, conflict resolution, and what's the next one? There's a next, crime prevention. They hold the reins. They are the ones who tell the police which boot to put down on the ground first when they march. And lest you forget, the police march with government boots. They don't march on their own. They can't sanction their own actions. It must come from the executive. So, asking for action from the persons tasked with our protection is not politics. It is necessary. Don't get me wrong. There are people who, for their own agenda, want to politicize everything. But the truth is, the police cannot make a move without the sanction of the politician. And don't you forget it, St. Lucia. So when they want to silence you, when they want you to be quiet, they tell you, don't politicize crime. When they don't want you to hold them accountable for their inaction, they tell you, let's not gloat. But who's gloating? Are you gloating, St. Lucia? because I'm not. I'm hurting. I've said so many times that our young men and women are becoming an endangered species. We continue to see inaction from our heads of government. We continue to be failed by the system. And this time, it is costing lives. It is costing the lives of our children, our brothers, our sisters, our young mothers, and our promising young men. Do the math. How many sportsmen have been killed in the past couple of years? There was this young footballer. Was he a footballer or a cricketer who got stabbed at Carnival? There was another one who I think that was an accident. I think this one drowned. And the stabbing of a national volleyball player just days ago. And now we're hearing unconfirmed reports of another homicide, this time in the city. This time at George V Park. And if you don't remember what George V Park is or where it is, it's the gardens in Castries. Now, I'm not blaming the police. I'm not blaming the police because the police can only do what the Minister of National Security and the Minister of Home Affairs allows them to do. That is where they get their policy direction. That is where they get their marching orders. I don't think it was, somebody's asking if there was a killing today. I don't think it was today. I think it was last evening or maybe very early in the morning. But the fire service has not. I'm waiting for the fire service to confirm it. But they haven't sent anything, and usually that means that the individual was they probably did not respond to this particular incident. But we're now, guys, at 35. 35 murders for the year. Who is taking responsibility for this? Who is comforting the mothers, the fathers, the sisters and brothers of these lost children? Who is being there for the families? While our leaders are so busy playing politics, they're so busy. I listened to the Prime Minister giving an address to the nation after Joint St. Omer was killed. And you know what I heard the Prime Minister say, guys? I heard him say that there is a separation of powers. And I asked myself, what is he talking about? What separation of powers? What is he trying to say? What is he trying to do? Somebody says they believe it's 36. Yes, that's true. It might be 36. You might be right. I don't think I'm counting the body that was found in La Pansi. So yes, you might be right. It might actually be 36. But I need to double check. I need to go back and check the records. And I realize, guys, that the Prime Minister takes no responsibility for what is happening on our streets. He takes no accountability. His only objective is to shield himself and the ministers in his cabinet. You telling me that this is right, St. Lucia? Are you telling me that this is just? Are you telling me that this is okay? Well, I'm here to tell you that you're wrong. If you believe that this is okay, then you are wrong. Murders, violence, even fatal accidents, guys. Spilt St. Lucian blood is becoming so commonplace, no matter the medium, that we don't even notice it anymore. We hear gunshots and we say, That's what we say. Another one bites the dust. And until it is something heinous, something gruesome, something extraordinarily brutal, like the death of Joyce and Toma, we forget our humanity. How do we fix this? How do we turn the tide? How do we make our home feel like home again? What do we do? The politicians have no answers. The police are overwhelmed. The country is in a state of complacency so bad that they don't even recognize what is going on. They don't recognize it. They don't understand it. They don't even realize that it's happening. So where do we go from here? What do we do? Now, I'm not the one that should be answering these questions. I don't have the answers any more than you do. But what about the people that we have tasked with our safety and security? What about the individuals that we pay every month to keep us safe? What about the tax, the additional tax that we have shouldered to ensure that we are safe. Why are we the ones on the back foot, scared to leave our homes, scared to stay out past a certain number of hours, scared to walk through our own communities? And these individuals who are supposed to be worrying about our safety, who are supposed to be figuring it out, they sleep comfortably in their beds. And they're not even aware of the situation. And you might say, why would you say that? Let me tell you why. Anybody who listened to the Prime Minister's address would realize that the Prime Minister had absolutely no idea what he was talking about. Anybody who listened to that address to the nation would ask themselves, does he even know what happened? Does he live in St. Lucia? After all the ventilation about the circumstances surrounding this case, the Prime Minister came and he gave us some ready-made cookie cutter address. As if he was not here. He didn't know. And more importantly, he didn't care. Meanwhile, a 2-year-old girl lost her mother. A father lost his daughter. A mother lost her child. The bank lost an employee, and a young lady lost her life. And the Prime Minister is coming to us totally unaware of what is going on. An entire country grieving, sick to their stomach at the depravity of the individual who can commit such a heinous act. Fed up of a justice system that allowed a would-be murderer to walk free, gift-wrapping him the opportunity to commit his crime. And while we grapple with shootings almost weekly, stabbings almost as if it was an afterthought, like people's lives didn't really matter. Like taking a life was such an easy feat. Accidents, because the authorities are too busy politicking to make our roads and highways safe. The Prime Minister has the audacity to come to us, grieving, feeling helpless as we are, hurting as we are, and treat us as if our heartbreak didn't matter. When will it end, St. Lucia? And I said so last evening on our on the show. Those of you who saw full disclosure last evening. By the way, guys, I don't have to tell you guys what mood I'm in today, but I still want to thank you for joining me. Those of you joining me on the Fire 107.7 FM frequency on your radio, good afternoon to you. Thank you for being here. Those of you on the Fire 107, Fire FM 107 link, thank you for joining us. Those of you on the Facebook live stream, good afternoon to you and welcome. I'm sad today, St. Lucia. I'm sad because there seems to be no end. I'm sad because it seems as if we, the citizens of this country, we don't matter to the higher ups. We keep losing our children, our friends, our family, our co-workers, and we're left with no answers. Somebody says like we are nothing. Exactly like we are nothing. Could you imagine a priest had to take an entire sermon to call for peace in St. Lucia, to call for tranquility, to call for us to remember our humanity? Is this what it has come to? The more I think about it, guys, the worse I feel. Is this really how it is supposed to be? I'm not sad, but I'm hurt. Today I heard a little more of Joy St. Omer's story. And it is too depraved for me to even share it on the air. It's too much, St. Lucia, way too much. This poor girl went through way too much. And then I realized that there are others that we've forgotten. Other lives lost that we haven't even begun to talk about. Other stories that we have not heard. I don't doubt that the police are doing everything in their power to help make St. Lucia safe. But like I told you, the police cannot act without the powers vested in them by the executive branch of government. The judiciary is powerless without endorsement from the executive. And who are the executives, St. Lucia? I'll tell you who they are. The ministers responsible for our safety and security, that's who they are. The ministers who we have tasked with keeping us safe. Crime prevention, home affairs, national security. These are not just honorary titles, you know, guys. These are what the job that we are paying these individuals to do. And yet still every day you wake up, you hear another murder. Every day the sun rises, another young life lost. How much more can we take, St. Lucia? Are we going to wait until our country becomes a ghost town? Until our communities are empty? Until our towns and villages are no more? Is it then that we are going to finally muster up the courage to demand answers from these individuals? I want to know. Have you realized the effects of this uptick in crime? The way it has already begun to affect your everyday life. People talk about crime is not good for our economy because tourists will not want to come to St. Lucia. Cruise ships will not want to come. We'll get less flights. The visitors will go elsewhere. The hotels will close down. People will lose their jobs. Yes, all of these things are important. All of these things are correct. But what about us, the citizens? Have you noticed that by the time it is 6 p.m., you can hardly get a bus on most bus stops in St. Lucia? Have you noticed that? Have you noticed that bars and restaurants are closing early? Have you noticed that on a Friday afternoon, Jeremy Street is almost deserted? Have you noticed, when was the last time you heard a boat ride? When was the last time you went to a disco or dance? Have you noticed your favorite little fast food places closing down earlier? Not staying open as long as they used to? Or you might have realized the businesses closing down in Castries one by one, silently. Silently. All of these things are happening silently. And it seems we don't notice until it's done. Have you noticed that in certain communities where little businesses and fast food places used to open at night to serve customers coming from work late? Have you noticed that these little businesses are almost always deserted in the evenings? You think crime only affects the visitors? No, it affects us, the people, even more. It affects our livelihoods, our leisure time, our happiness as a people. How can we prosper? How can we go forward together? Because everything this government says, everything, independence devant ensemble, National Day devant ensemble, Journée créole du vent ensemble. In everything, du vent ensemble. Moi-même, quoi, c'est du vent derrière ensemble. Et que ma si hot kay quoi moi. Eh bien, hot kay d'accord avec moi. Say, Nusha, what have you noticed? I want to hear from my listeners today. I know you guys are there. I know you're listening. I know you are thinking about what I am saying and you're putting it into perspective. I want to hear from you. How is this surge in crime? And don't think, St. Lucia, do not believe that because we're having so many murders, other crimes are not taking place, you know. Don't you dare believe that. Because I am telling you, robberies have gone up. Rapes have gone up. Burglaries have gone up. Breaking and entering has gone up. Fraudulent activity has gone up. How do I know that? Because these are the things that lead. These are the things that lead to the murder. Somebody steals something from somebody. Somebody catch somebody trespassing on their private property at their homes. Someone robbed somebody else. Somebody stole somebody's vehicle. Somebody raped somebody's sister or mother or girlfriend or wife. Because according to Mr. Xavier, Calix Kaka Xavier, if you were listening last Thursday on Insight, he said, the little crimes, they are the ones that escalate into murder. And when he said the little crimes, he meant trespassing, predial larceny, robbery, burglary, threats, violent disagreements. These are the things that are happening in St. Lucia, and they seem to be happening behind closed doors. We're quiet about it. We don't say a word. We stick our heads in the sand, and we expect if we ignore it, it will go away. So I want to hear from you. What have you noticed in your community? And the phone lines are open, 572-3473. That's our WhatsApp number, guys. Let me hear from you. What are you noticing in your community? What economic activity has ground to a halt ever since this uptick in crime began? I know you notice, this is St. Lucia, everybody notices everything. There might be a favorite place where you used to buy your chicken and fries after work, and that place is no longer open. There must have been a bar where you stop to have a drink with the boys before you go home, just to unwind and relax. And that place doesn't open every night anymore. What have you noticed, St. Lucia? What have you seen? Because that's our problem. We like to stay quiet. We like to suffer in silence. Look at the vendors. You guys think these things are not related? Look at the vendors. Put yourself in one of these vendors' shoes. Just imagine. You've been operating in that arcade for decades. Some from since it was opened in I think 94, 96, around there. That is where you have made your livelihood, your daily bread for the past 30 odd years. You sent your kids to school from the US you collected from these travelers who bought souvenirs from you. You paid your mortgage, you built your home. And now you're working towards your retirement. Because kids are grown, they're on their own, so now it's just you and maybe your spouse. You can no longer hustle the way you used to, but you can still sit down and entice a visitor to buy a trinket from you. Now things have not been going as good as you hoped they would do, but you've been through hard times before, and you're holding out, you're holding on. And all in a sudden, this minister decides that you can no longer operate because you've said something or you've done something that aggrieved him, or you've gone through hard times not because you were not working hard, you were not there, you were not prepared, you didn't speak to the visitors, you didn't have things for sale, but because their policies stopped the volume of tourists that used to visit our shores. So through no fault of your own, you cannot afford to pay the rents that you used to pay, but you're holding on, you're holding out for that other season so that you can meet your obligations to the best of your abilities, because they've promised you that you would get that opportunity. And when the day comes, you're kicked out unceremoniously, told on national TV that if you don't have the money, then your livelihood is gone. Senusha, tell me that is not enough to make somebody forget their Christianity. Tell me that is not enough to make somebody have thoughts in their head that they should not have. Even if they don't act on it, but they think it. You think it's the big crimes that cause the problem? Let me tell you. The little crimes cause even bigger problems. Somebody's saying here, grieving afternoon to all of us. Angie, when I look at these guys, I can't help but think that they want us to die in whichever way, only to make room for the people they are giving our country's passports to. These people are acquiring our country's passport because it grants them options and opportunities for their children as well. Soon, the total percentage of nationals will be less than 25%. Could you imagine that? Losing your own birthright. I'm not trying to be a purveyor of doom and gloom here, Senusha, but I want you all to understand the big picture. I want you all to understand what is going on in Fair Helen. And I know a lot of people are sitting here thinking, Angie, it doesn't even make sense asking the police for answers, because the police cannot find their own answers. To this day, they cannot tell us what happened to Officer Tyson. They know everything that didn't kill him, but they still have no idea how he actually died. And you would not be wrong in that assessment. I think, St. Lucia, that we should advocate for the Minister of National Security and the Minister of Home Affairs not to have personal bodyguards. All other ministers can have bodyguards except those two. And the Prime Minister as well. They shouldn't have any bodyguards. Some of you might be saying, Angie, you're a crazy woman to say something like that. But let me justify my answer or my statement. Isn't it the job of the Minister of National Security to keep the nation safe? Just think about it for a second. If I had the power, guys, that's what I would do. Take away the bodyguard, the security detail for the Ministers of Home Affairs, National Security, and the Prime Minister. And before you tell me that's impossible, I don't remember John Compton ever having security detail other than a driver. And I do recall John Compton saying to the police officers that were given to him as a security detail in 2006, go and patrol the streets. I don't need you. Now here's why I said this. The Prime Minister of a country is its leader. He's the manager of the Cabinet of Ministers. He provides policy direction for the entire country. The Minister of Home Affairs provides policy direction for the police force. He works in tandem with law enforcement to ensure that the police are well taken care of, all of their needs are met, and they are well equipped to take on whatever problems plague the nation. Right? If these individuals are doing their jobs, what need would they have for security? We need to give them an incentive to do their jobs properly, guys. And I vote that we take away their security detail. We take away their bodyguards. We leave them as vulnerable as we are, so that they have a vested interest in public safety and security. So that they understand how we feel walking through these streets at night. They understand what we feel going to the ATM after work. They understand how we feel when we hear of those murders. Because we, the ones who pay their way, because we're not just paying their salaries, guys. We're paying incentives, travel allowance, vehicle allowance. If they fall sick, they get medical treatment overseas at the expense of the public. Just think about what I'm saying before you dismiss me as a crazy person. These men and women who sit in cabinet, who sometimes are so ill-prepared. They have all the perks. They don't have to worry about crime. You heard what the Prime Minister said? The Prime Minister said, opinion takers and opinion makers, stay away from sensationalism, separation of powers. Nothing he said made any sense, had any relevance to the matter at hand. Do you know why he doesn't have to worry about that? He doesn't have to worry about it because he has armed security. Have you seen his house lately? There's a little security booth in his front yard, right by the gate. He is safe and secure, snug as a bug in his bed every night. And you and me, we toss and turn, our eyes open at every sound. We cannot sleep. We listen for gunshots. We're afraid of our own shadow. When I was little, I used to be afraid of the Rambali trucks because people used to say that the Rambalis would take children for devil. And I remember this one terrifying incident where I was walking up the road and I heard one of these trucks coming, and I remember being so terrified that I jumped in the bush and hid behind a big rock that was by the side of the road until the truck passed by. And I'm little, you know. At that time, going to the Anglican infant school. So I fit behind that rock and I'm trembling, waiting for that truck to pass by, praying that it doesn't stop, praying that the driver doesn't see me to take me for devil. I would have laughed at that incident on any other day, but today I cannot laugh at it. They are safe. They are in their beds. Their families are safe because they have security, but we don't. Every cricket that chirps in the night causes us to jump from our sleep. Every cockroach that scurries on the floor causes us to grab a light and start looking around. Every mosquito that bites us, we're up looking around and we lay back in bed and we cannot sleep. We cannot fall back asleep for hours. We get up, we double check our doors and our windows, trying to make sure that they are locked. But not these guys. Not the guys tasked with keeping us safe. Not the guys tasked with taking those worries away from our minds. These guys, les. Lo pase bokay se buksa le oswe yo ka ofle telman ou ka kwa akodi se van yo ka van kay lan ba on ko yo. You're bien comfortable. Not us, not the citizens. I think we should advocate, we should call for these individuals not to have security. Because if they are doing their jobs, they wouldn't need security anyway. If the Minister of National Security is putting the right policies in place, no citizen would have to be fearful. No citizen would hear a frog croak in a bush and jump out of their skin. No citizen would hear a bush, a sound by the side of the road and turn around and look behind them. If the Minister of Home Affairs ensured that the police are well equipped, the police are well trained, the police have proper policies guiding them, he wouldn't need any security. We would be safe. And if the Prime Minister held these two ministers to account and made sure that they did their jobs, we would be safe. They wouldn't need security. So today, I'm putting it to you, Sanusians. I think we should call for these three ministers, the Prime Minister, the Minister of Home Affairs, and the Minister of National Security, remove their security detail. Let them feel what we feel as ordinary citizens so that they can get the job done. If we don't do that, Senusha, this contributor says that we're going to be 25% nationals. No, we might not end up being 1%. On the Facebook platform, somebody says crime is never a good thing for a country, especially when it's happening all over the place. Nowhere is safe and people are afraid to leave their homes, to go shopping or going to work, asking if they will not be the next victim. We need these ministers to be asking these questions. Will it be me next? I'll take a quick commercial break at this point. I'll come back and we'll read more of the topic, the comments on the Facebook platform. We'll be right back.
You already know the power of Licks products on your clothes and household. You list your whites and colored clothes, leaving them fresh and scented. You list your dishes and left your hands protected with vitamin E. You list your floors, even list your toilet. Now we expand and bring you 3 new scents in our fabric softener: Balmy Sunshine, Summer Sunshine, and Thousand Flowers. And Licks those stains off of colored clothes with Licks Corrosive Bleach. Licks went even further with Bondi Care body soap bars in deodorant and antibacterial. So Licks tiredness and bacteria out and refresh your tired body. Your products giving you Licks, then choose Licks from the Danish Distribution League. Available at all leading supermarkets.
Looking for a new way to enjoy your St. Lucia vacation? Book a tailor-made tour with Sea Breeze Adventures. Explore the island's untouched natural beauty as you visit hidden coves and beaches along the coastline with only one of our whole or half-day excursions. We offer a variety of adventure opportunities, including sport fishing, sunset cruises, island adventures, whale and dolphin watching, and water taxi service. To book, contact Captain Warren at telephone number 1758-713-3196. Sea Breeze Adventures, not just a tour, but an adventure. You're back here on Fire FM, and this is Hardtalk. And we're going to take our topic, we take our attention to the Facebook platform. And the topic for today, guys, do you believe that we should advocate for the removal of security details for the Prime Minister, the Minister of National Security, and the Minister of Home Affairs? And the reason why I asked the question, it's just a thought, but I asked the question because I believe if the Minister of Home Affairs ensures that the police is well equipped, well trained, and well supplied, there would be no need for security. We would be safe. Likewise, if the Minister of National Security ensures that there is proper policy direction that will enable the police to get the job done, the police and other law enforcement officials, other security forces, then there would be no need for security. And also, most importantly, if the Prime Minister of the country holds these 2 ministers to account, make sure that they do their work, there would be no need for security. What's your take? Somebody says there, that's what the public needs to call for, the removal of their security guards. Somebody says, I second that, Angie. It is because they are safe and because they are not being held accountable, they have us in this mess. Furthermore, these guys are to be fired. The Commissioner of Police and his deputy, the one in the seat of the Prime Minister and his Deputy Prime Minister, the one in Central Castries and the one for crime resolution, they are the first batch who need to go. I agree. Somebody says PJP is not doing a good job as the one that's in charge of national security. Why is he not choosing someone outside the government who can do a better job? It seems that he is just interested in the name. I don't know where his interest lies, guys. But I doubt it lies in ensuring that the people of St. Lucia are safe. Why do I say that? I say that, and I want to know if you guys agree with me. I say that because I don't see any kind of concrete plan, any kind of concrete movement towards making St. Lucia safe again. I don't see it. I've lived through a John Compton administration. I've lived through Kenny Anthony administrations. And now I'm living through my second. I've lived through Alan Shastney administration, Stephenson King's administration, and now I'm living through the second Philip J. Pierre administration. And this, I must admit, is the weakest stance on national security we have ever had. Somebody reminded me yesterday that a certain MP for ancillary canneries, after witnessing a brutal murder in that constituency a couple of years ago, said, when you find the person who did this, don't bother taking him to court and having a trial, just hang him. The late, great John Compton, and people, Sir John Compton, I have to give him the respect that he deserves. I have to put respect on his name. Guys, if Sir John was still alive, God rest his tired, weary soul, do you think criminals would dare behave in such a way? Do you think criminals would dare be so bold and blatant as to stand up in the streets of the city and fire shots behind police officers? Where in Sir John St. Lucia that would happen? Tell me. Not on Rat Islet, not on Bullshit Rock, not on Maria Islet, not in the frigates, nowhere. And you guys know I am telling the truth. You know that I am telling the truth. Where would this happen in the Sir John era? Because the first thing Sir John would say, hang them. That's what he would say. Hang them. Today, we have no stance on national security, none. Somebody just sent me a reel, something about Joyce and Doma. I don't even want to play this because this is going to be too much for me today. But thank you for that. I'll listen to it privately. Thank you so much for sending me that video. I will listen to it privately. Guys, those of you who lived in a St. Lucia ruled by Sir John Compton, you knew that there was crime, you know. There were murders. There were robberies. There were killings. There were burglaries and rapes. But not to the extent that we have right now, because we had a leader who stood strong. We had a leader who was not afraid to take the right decisions, make the hard decisions to ensure our safety. There was a zero tolerance. And you know, once Sir John put his hands on you, you go into the gallows. Whether the UN, the UK, the USSR, whoever it is that want to cry for you, they can cry. They can cry a river, they can cry a stream. Hell, they could have cried an ocean. But criminals got what they deserved. Nobody was saying in St. Lucia. We have a caller on the line. Good afternoon to you, caller. You are on the air.
Good afternoon, Angie. How are you doing?
I'm good, caller. I'm as good as can be expected. What about you?
I'm good, my love. By the grace of God, I am good. With all what's happening in this country, it's so sad.
Yeah, it is.
Angie, in 2016, when the opposition leader, he was then prime minister, we all knew what he did. I want St. Lucians to know that was the era for us to take that bold step to change the system, the corrupt system in this country. And we have the right leader to do that. A leader that doesn't need politics to survive.
Yeah.
We had to take that bold step, and in 2021, if St. Lucians were not wicked at heart, listen to me, if our nation was not wicked at heart, St. Lucia would have been well on its way.
Yep.
The whole system, the corrupt system that is working in favor of the politicians and the rich people in this country, and it's not favoring the poor people who are the taxpayers to keep the life of the politicians looking good. If we, in fact, I don't want to say we because I am not in it. If this nation was not a wicked nation, today we would have been a stadium in length away, getting out of that system. We would have been far long going, and our country would have been floating and navigating to prosperity. Because we had a leader. God appointed us a leader who is unafraid of telling the people of St. Lucia our justice system is corrupt.
Now, caller, let me ask you a question.
Compromise. I wouldn't say corrupt. I refrain that question. He didn't say corrupt. He said the justice system is compromised.
Caller, let me ask you a question. There's a petition going around calling for the reinstatement of the death penalty. And I want people to weigh in on this. Do you think that if we had the death penalty today, that all of these indiscriminate killings would be taking place in St. Lucia?
In a little country like St. Lucia, I don't think it would have gone to that level. I don't think it would have been. You would have been hearing these things, but not so frequently.
Yeah. Like
you would have heard of this kind of killings, maybe after every 2 or 4 decades, you probably hear about these things. In a little country like St. Lucia. Now let me tell you, we don't really need to bring back the death penalty in this country, you know. We just need proper structure. We need policies that would structure this country properly, that could help the poor people come out of the mentality they have there. We need proper structure in the country, St. Lucia. And that is what I am telling you. When Mr. Shafley said Kenny could not do it, that is what he was telling you all. Kenny could not position the country for it to grow properly and to take us out of the poverty and to give us a good lifestyle and to bring that country in an economy system that is similar to that of Bermuda or Singapore, where we have less killings, where we have less crime, you know, where our young people can feel free to walk and you know, go out and have fun, and they do not have to look over their shoulders, and the parents, they don't have to be staying up when your child is at school. You have to wait, watch the clock to see at what time they come in. You nervous already because of the system, the way the politicians have this country. Is
So you're one of those that believe that crime is more about economics than anything else. That poverty breeds crime.
Of course. Let me tell St. Lucian something. You need to take your time and sit down, especially the Labour supporters. You need to sit yourselves down. Some of you have been on plane, you're in first world country, you all have gone as far as Dubai, some of y'all. Switzerland, Holland, Denmark, you all have been there. And see how these countries are working. It's working because the policies, the economy is working for the people. The people are not sitting there sitting down and playing politics. The people don't have friends in government. The taxpayers don't want no politicians for their friends. The only people that should take politicians for their friends are the business people, because they're the ones that get in the cut. But you, the poor man, you, the poor people, you don't need no politicians for your friends. You need to squeeze the head of the politicians and make them put policies, stiff penalties, because it's our families, our children that are going to pay the prices. That is paying the prices, Angie.
Yeah, that is true. I cannot fault you there, Cole.
And it's not the politicians. Their families, all of them are well protected with the resources that is supposed to protect you. Yep. The poor people from Castries is the poor people from the whole of St. Lucia.
And Castries East,
yourselves down.
Castries East seems to be a hot spot these days. Multiple murders happening in Castries East, and the Prime Minister is saying nothing.
Let me tell you something. This other bag I recently see. Who are Philippine? From day one I have been telling you all, it's not by chance he stole the election. God permit him and allow him to steal it, for him to shine his light on Philippine, for everybody to see who Philippine is. He is the danger man there. Okay? And if St. Lucians want to sit themselves there and play politics in Philippine, what we get in today is up to us.
Yeah.
It's up to us. Because all what that is happening, guys, and people sit down like that. What? You have a dark cloud over you, St. Lucia? Is there a dark cloud over you that is preventing you all from moving and saying enough is enough? You all sit yourselves there. Refuse to move because you all don't like Alan Shasley. You all rather the country go down. And God show you all the man with the plan to fix it for you all. You all hypocrite and you all are a wicked bunch of people. Using money, which God tell us, and God tell you all, money is the root to evil. And it's that same money we saw Labour Party spreading for the elections. The root to evil, a trauma, poison, which God calls the snake. The only animal in the Bible God used to describe the devil is the snake.
Caller, I have a question for you. You live in Castries East, right? Are you from that constituency?
No, I am not. I am not in St. Lucia. I am not living in Castries.
Okay. Oh, you're not in St. Lucia. Okay, sorry. I thought you
No,
were. I thought you were.
I am not there.
Because I want to find out from the people. I want to know how this crime is affecting the communities. That's the
Listen to
question
me,
I was going to ask.
Angie.
How
Stop
are
there.
these things?
Just stop there. The crime ain't affecting none of them.
You say that,
You know what
Colin?
I'm telling you? That if it was affecting them, they would raise themselves and talk. They would raise themselves. They don't need no politician to come and sympathize with them. They would raise themselves from Castries East to Viewfort.
Wow.
Everybody in this country would raise themselves, and they need to stop being hypocrites. When the people, children die, and they just there, accept my sympathy, accept my sympathy, accept my sympathy, my food. And we sit ourselves, they're not doing anything about it. Accept my sympathy, meaning to me, when I see that and I scroll on social media, all I see is a bunch of hypocrites, just like Philip Pierre sitting there reading something and his eye all around, watching everything. If he's a teleprompter, if he's a piece of paper, he's reading and people passing and they're disturbing him and his eyes everywhere. Nothing coming from his heart. That's just word of mouth.
Yeah.
Nothing sincere. And day after day, within 24 hours, less than 24 hours, 3 and 4 people dying in our country, and we playing politics, and everybody quiet because they're playing politics. They assassinate this and assassinate that. No politicians not taking jail. No politicians not dying with cancer. No politicians not dying from bad health services. No politicians not in accidents because of bad road. No politicians being affected.
Yeah. It does seem that way. It does seem that way.
Who's being affected?
Yeah.
Who? When will we open our eyes to stop making these elites? I will not use the elites because the poor people in the ghetto don't know the meaning of elite, some of them. When will we open our eyes in this country and stop making these rich people walk over us? Fool us. Make you hate a man God put there to help you come out of poverty. And the elites, they laughing at you all playing. All on social media, chacne this, chacne that. Chacne pas bouger rien, il can faire la poupée. Il pas bouger, he doesn't need it. But you can see the love in him. And he wants to help the people of St. Lucia. He wants to help them. I heard this gentleman speak on Newskin today. You could have felt the sincerity in his voice.
Yeah.
I wasn't next to him, but I would say probably he was probably crying. The emotion, it was there. That is a leader. He felt the plight of the people. And he wants to fix it. He wants to help the people. He wants to help the land. And again, I am telling St. Lucian, in his first term, poverty went down. We're not even getting the statistics in this country anymore. When it comes to poverty and these things, we don't get statistics anymore. It looks like everybody turned poor or everybody turned rich in St. Lucia.
Well, they did tell us that unemployment was down, record-breaking numbers. But then when you tried to justify it, you couldn't figure out where these people were working.
Angie, again, that's the PR stunt. That's the machinery of the Labour Party.
Yeah.
The PR stunt just coming on the television. The television, the people paying their light bill and their whatever, utility bills. How much money just coming on it and lying to the people. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Because if unemployment was down, my darling, we would have felt it in the economy, and the economy would not have been on a decline of 6%.
True.
I did not go to school, and I can understand that.
True.
Because if there was record double-digit people working in unemployment good, monies would have been spending in the damn country. And the country would have been collecting returns, and there's no way the economy would have declined in 2025.
Now, guys.
No way.
Thank you
so
for
I am
that.
calling on the poor people and the poor struggling people. The poor people, when I pass by your curtains and your galvanized and your thing falling apart in the country, that is not what God wants for you all. You need to be living better than that. You can be living better than that. But you'll have to believe. You'll have to believe, and you'll have to want to come out from there.
Yeah.
And Philip Pierre and Labour cannot take you out from there. From since 1969, Labour has failed this country. And you're seeing it clearly now. In 2026, we are going up to the 30th century, and St. Lucia have problems with water. St. Lucia have no infrastructure that is good.
Can you believe it? Can
St.
you
Lucia
believe
have
it?
no capital project to help our economy grow.
Can you believe it, St. Lucia?
A set of politicians in your head playing with you, using racism to sit as the government, and you all are not benefiting anything from that. All what these people, every time Labour Party come into power, St. Lucia is in a mess. Inflation. What inflation never went up under UWP administration in this country. Never. It's always Labour that is making things hard for the poor people.
Yeah.
And you know when inflation goes up, whatever government that is there, it's not coming down.
I can tell you that. Whenever prices go up, that's why Alan Shastney was so appalled when the price of bread went up, because he said, how could you allow that to happen? These prices are not going to go down. How are the poor people going to?
Lucians need to start studying the country. It's not all about you come and cry. They take you out from the vendors. Okay, you come and cry. I love you, Mr. Pierre. Mr. Pierre then come. He say, I'll allocate money for you. He give you $20. He put it in your pocket. And he leave you there. What you gain? The $20 will finish.
And Mr. Pierre looking good. Mr. Pierre looks good because he came and he responded to your plight.
Yes. But you still don't have health care when you fall sick. The security in the country is still not good. The education system still not good. No infrastructure, still not good. St. Lucians, I have faith in my country doing well. I have faith in St. Lucia. You see the resources we have in St. Lucia, which is our people. I have faith in our people. I have faith in the poor people building this country to something better. But not with a Labour administration. It cannot happen. It will never happen, no matter how hard you try. No matter the elites, the rich people, that one is for y'all. You're in commerce. No matter how quiet you decide to stay, the country will sink, and you will destroy the country, because Philip Pierre cannot carry that country.
Thank you for that contribution, caller. Guys, let me tell you, it is a very, very sad day. Over to the Facebook platform, somebody's saying here, caller, money is not the root to all evil, but it is the love of money that is the root to all kinds of evil. Somebody else is saying PJP is refusing to put strong measures in place to reduce the crime because he wants to protect his victory. He doesn't want to get certain people angry. Sean said before election that he would go to the prison and everyone that was there for drugs, he would free them because he knew that he would satisfy some people. Up to now, he has not done that. We need a government that's not coward to apply strong laws so that the country and the people can be guided. I agree with that. 100%. We'll take a quick commercial break, and when I get back, I'm opening the phone lines are open, guys. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from the people. How do you feel about what's going on in this country? Let us know.
You already know the power of Licks products on your clothes and household. You Licks your whites and colored clothes, leaving them fresh and scented. You Licks your dishes and left your hands protected with vitamin E. You Licks your floors, even Licks your toilet. Now we expand and bring you 3 new scents in our fabric softener: Balmy Sunshine, Summer Sunshine, and Thousand Flowers. And Licks those stains off of colored clothes with Licks Color Safe Bleach. Licks went even further with Bondi Care body soap bars in deodorant and antibacterial. So Licks tiredness and bacteria out and refresh your tired body. Your products giving you Licks? Then choose Licks from Today Distribution Inc. Available at all leading supermarkets.
Looking for a new way to enjoy your St. Lucia vacation? Book a tailor-made tour with Seabreeze Adventures. Explore the island's untouched natural beauty as you visit hidden coves and beaches along the coastline with any one of our whole or half-day excursions. We offer a variety of adventure opportunities, including sport fishing, sunset cruises, island adventures, whale and dolphin watching, and water taxi service. To book, contact Captain Warren at telephone number 1758-713-3196. Seabreeze Adventures, not just a tour, but an adventure.
Guys, you're back on Fire 107.7 FM, and this is Hard Talk with me, Angie. And right now the phone lines are open. I want to know how the people feel. How do you feel, St. Lucia, seeing the state of our country today, seeing what's happening? Guys, I have to tell you, hearing that there could possibly have been another murder last evening. It's rumored that someone was stabbed in George V Park, and that would be our 36th murder. Thought it was 35, but I've realized I didn't count the gentleman who was found shot to death in a house in La Panse. And of course, you recall the St. Lucian volleyball player, national volleyball player, which was stabbed in his home in Sunny Acres, I believe. And then we're seeing what's going on. And guys, there's other question. The question that I put to you. I think it is my opinion that St. Lucians should change the laws. Advocate that the Prime Minister, the Minister of National Security, and the Minister of Home Affairs be stripped of their security detail. Not because I want anything to happen to them, because I want them to feel how we feel. I want them to know what it's like to jump at every sound, to turn around and look behind them when they're walking in the street, to be afraid of their own shadow, to not be able to sleep if a mosquito bites you too hard, to have to get up and go and check your doors and windows, and if you hear your dog bark, to not feel safe in your own skin, because that's how I believe the populace feels. I want these ministers, because in my opinion, if the Minister of Home Affairs ensures that the police are well equipped, well trained, and have everything they need, there would be no need for security. We would be safe. I wholeheartedly believe that if the Minister of National Security ensures that the right policies are in place to keep us, the citizenry, safe, that there would be no need for security. Because the nation would be secure. That's his job, national security. And I say the Prime Minister because I believe that if the Prime Minister, who is the leader of the country, the manager of the cabinet, if he ensures that his Home Affairs Minister and his National Security Minister do their jobs, if he holds them to account, then he will feel safe. So this is what I want to advocate for. This is the question that I want to put to you. Do you agree with me? Do you agree that if these three ministers did the job that we were paying them for, no citizen would have to go through what we are going through right now? Joyce and Oma would be alive. That national player, national volleyball player, I need to find his name though. Excuse me, Saint Lucia, let me just find the name of this individual who was, because I don't have his name here. And I don't want to keep saying. Give me 1 minute, guys. Because this individual was killed days after Joy St. Omer. Days. Now, I am not advocating, St. Lucia, that we take the... Right. So here's the story that I was talking about. Well, the identity of the deceased has not yet been officially released. But they're saying that this individual was found dead on Friday afternoon inside his residence at Sunny Acres Castries. According to information obtained, a gruesome discovery was made shortly after 2 p.m. by the victim's roommate. The deceased was found lying in a pool of blood inside his room and is believed to have sustained multiple stab wounds to the body. Investigation ongoing. Ah, Lord. You see how bad it is, guys? Do you see how bad it is? And like the previous caller said, none of the politicians are being affected by this. Why? Because they are snug as a bug in a rug. They have security detail that we pay for. They have security booths at their home that we pay for. They have security officers that we pay for. What do we have? All the other ministers, those not responsible for law enforcement and security, they can have details. They can have all the security that they want because it is not their job to ensure that the country is safe. But these three ministers who are in charge I believe we should advocate that the law be changed and they no longer be granted security details. I think that would incentivize them to make strong laws, to provide strong policies to deter and mitigate crime. I think that's the only way these individuals will start doing the job that we are paying them for, as opposed to thinking up ways to keep themselves in power. We need to keep them in check. And I think that's the way to do it, guys. You might not agree with me, but when you sit and you think about it, I'm pretty sure you will come to the very same conclusion that I have come to. Their families are safe, Senusha. Their families are okay. I would not be surprised, Senusha, if all of those government ministers, or 90% of them, their kids are overseas. I would not be surprised if that were the case. Why else would they be so lackadaisical in providing a safe space for our kids to grow up? And when the Prime Minister, I cannot forget the look on the Prime Minister's face when he was giving that statement. Not a care in the world. We have a caller on the line. Good afternoon to you, caller. You are on the air.
Good afternoon to you, Sanjay.
How you doing?
Honestly, I feel like the aftershocks of a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
It was really sad. I mean, even I came across that voice message that was circulating, a recorded conversation that was circulating between the victim and the alleged
perpetrator. Mm-hmm.
And honestly, Angie, I had to pretty much scare my fears. Going back to listen to this now.
Yeah.
I mean, how could you? That is beyond heartless.
Yep.
And it's premeditated.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have like kind of news. We've shed some light on it. The Prime Minister, the Minister for National Security, and the Deputy Minister come and talk like they care so much. But really, what they say is pretty much insulting.
Hold on. You heard caring in the Prime Minister's voice when he made that statement? What sentence made you believe he cared? Because none of it said. It said to me that the Prime Minister was confounded, kerfuffled, and quite confused. He didn't even know what he was talking about. Yes, that's how I felt.
Honestly, in that case, I personally, I would have felt better if he were to have kept quiet and said nothing as usual, because that is what I expected of him. But then you want to come out and try to pretend like you care so much. Like we could hear your tone for someone, we could see your expression, we could read your expressions. We know that you're just insulting people.
Yeah.
So he just made a bad situation worse.
And then knowing that this person was already caught by police, already behind bars.
Yeah.
And appealed to the High Court and was granted bail, although he was denied bail.
The first time. The justice system, I don't think it has to be revisited. I think it's like you say when you're doing something that is not good, you just have to take it off and redo it. That is what I.
So you think it should be scrapped, caller?
Start from scratch, altogether, and start all over.
Wow.
Because there are people or departments within the justice system that is not functioning.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we try to, revamp it or whatever, we might never find the actual cause of the problem.
Right.
Because when they know there's going to be an audit or something, they are put on some of the best.
Yeah. Because they're
so we just have to approach all of what's there. Sorry?
I said because then they're coming under scrutiny.
Exactly. So we just have to uproot all of what's there and start afresh. And then
what is your opinion? What is your opinion on the Prime Minister, the Minister for National Security, and the Minister for Home Affairs having no security detail?
I was just about to get to that. I stand with you on that, Benji. Because this is the only way we could give them, they could have an idea of what path we are walking.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only way they could start to consider. But like you said, because they know they are safe, their family members are safe. Some of them are probably not even. Most of them are not probably not even on island.
Yeah.
They know they're safe. They feel safe, so it's like they have nothing to fear.
Yeah.
We're just taking people for granted. But then he came about and he was talking about. I think that was in the case of the Commissioner of Police, where he wanted to put whoever he wanted. He came and he said, "Oh, his family members are facing threats," just by what people are saying. And people are actually living the life of fear, and you don't care about it. But you want to come and complain because of people are speaking. Like are these guys for real? Like I don't honestly.
So you understand exactly how I feel, caller. You understand exactly how I feel. I say
honestly, yes, Angie. Like you never said it. If I'm dreaming, I almost want to say it, like the song says. If I'm dreaming, don't wake me up. If it's a lie, don't tell me the truth. You know. The more this thing unfolds, Angie, the more I'm convinced that these guys never won any election. I remember saying,
"You're not alone in that belief."
Or this administration. So go ahead.
I said, "You're not alone in that belief."
I remember saying this administration are incapable. They don't have the capacity, and it's showing more and more with every passing moment.
Yeah.
I didn't know you guys were on last night, so I went back and I listened to the broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the first thing he said something that I really was saying, because I've been trying to put the pieces of the story together.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, if that lady went to make a report the morning of her death, police were, let's say, I think they said that the police went out in search of him. They were unable to locate him or find him.
Yeah.
That's fine. You know, he's not just an ordinary job or whatever, he's trained or whatever. You were not able to find him. Your very next course of action should be securing the victim.
Yeah.
Common sense. And again, the policemen are not just an ordinary job.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that they should have. If they could not figure it out by themselves, I believe they were trained in that field too, to do all of these things.
Yep.
Preventative measures. We should not have to be suffering and mourning like this. It's like almost every week.
Yep. And
then you change from sorry.
No, go ahead. And
then the first administration, they had a minister for national security and for crime prevention. And this one, he changed it from crime prevention, or is it crime prevention now? But it used to be something else.
No. It's Home Affairs, Crime Prevention, and Conflict Resolution, and Persons with Disabilities. I don't know why they're there, but they're there.
Conflict resolution.
Crime, conflict resolution. Cause only you could make me laugh today. Only you could make me laugh today.
Honestly, but look at this. He's giving so much attention to the name of a portfolio.
Yeah.
Like you were saying yesterday, they are gonna construct a framework.
Yeah. That's what it says. Duvade some, no tout Duvade some. They should really say Duvade some.
Yeah. I'm really thinking our best course of action is to demand the Prime Minister, his deputy, his Minister for National and Crime or whatever it is, the one you just spoke about, the one for Cashew Central, the police commissioner and the deputy commissioner all be, how to say, all be fired. And enact that motion that you posing for. So then the next person who comes and say, I'm the person for the job, they would know. You don't, you work, you don't get paid. You don't get the perks that come with your job either.
Yeah.
I think that is the best course of action for us. That's the only way we could have a chance of fixing this thing.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly. Thank you for that, caller.
So, you're welcome.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was my contribution for today, and thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
And I'll continue listening.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Guys, I'm telling you, unless we put our foot down, unless we as a people take drastic action and say to these people, listen, we're the ones paying your salary, you know. And we demand that you do the job that we pay you for. Guys, in every other industry, in the service industry, if you're not holding your own, you're gone. You get fired. In the healthcare industry, a doctor makes a mistake like that, his license is taken away. He cannot practice in St. Lucia anymore. A caller on the line. Good afternoon to you, caller. You are on the air.
Good afternoon, Angie. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good, Angie. Angie, I listened to Sarah Flood today on Timothy Polio's show, and she's calling for Joy St. Omar. So speaking on that young lady who lost her life.
Yeah.
From her husband, brutally. And she was calling for an international or independent, what do you call it? Not audit, investigation.
Yeah.
But there's another name. There's another name they call it.
An inquest?
Beg your pardon?
Is it an inquest?
Yes, an inquest. Yes. And you know, she's basically saying, Angie, our system is corrupt. The justice system is broken, and we have known that for how long now? Over 20 years now.
Quite some time.
And she also called for non-political interference, Angie, into that.
Yeah.
And do you remember a couple of years ago under Kenny Anthony, we had that same situation where our justice system, well, in his point of view, they made it political, and then the impacts report came out of that. Remember, the impacts is an international regional body, right?
Regional body.
Regional body, and I believe the impacts is and those guys, they get those investigators from Jamaica.
Yes.
At that time.
Yes. That's where these came from. Yeah. I think it's part of the RSS, caller, but I can't be sure. I have to double check.
Yeah, they are from the guys that run that investigation, Angie, they're from Jamaica. But it was a regional thing called the Impact Report and whatnot. My thing is, Angie, is that number one, we know the system is broken or the system is corrupt, and anybody who try to or attempt to change it is called an enemy of the state. And the reason why I'm saying this, Angie, because from 97 going up to this day, from this day, we had a lot of scandals from Grangberg, Rochamel, Frenwell, then we had Jofali, and all those different things. We had inquests for all those different things. You know, we never came to the root of those scandals. And going on to the real major one, where it was gross. It was and we had what's the lady name for human rights violation? It was actually
Are you talking about the human rights lawyer?
Yes, allegedly, she that came into power with the impact report. Allegedly, they had 12 people who lost their life eventually
Yes,
by
you're
police.
talking about Miss Mary Francis.
Mary Francis, and Miss Mary Francis, we see the uproar for Miss Santoma, don't get me wrong, and calling for an inquest and all that, but do not forget we had an inquest for over 12 individuals who lost their life, 12 families who are still pending for that situation, and police who have not been, or how can I say, convicted for those acts. Even the police commissioner, François, remember him? François?
Yeah, I think he had lost his visa or something. Am I remembering this correctly?
Well, I believe all that was a part of it because that's when the Lee law was enacted.
Right.
The
Yeah.
Today, our police force is still under investigation. And with that, it was a whole political football game. And there are still things where our courts in St. Lucia had already came to a conclusion, but we have to go deeper into it, but I don't want to go too deep into it. But what I'm trying to tell you, Flood, is that even if we go for inquests and all those different things, we have seen the past actions before, and that is not tackling the problem at the root, Angie. This time we always want to bypass our courts because the perception is that those courts are corrupt. The perception is there's a backlog of cases, you will not be heard. And it's not just a perception. Well, I say perception because I'm trying to stay on the legal point of view.
Right.
That we know, some people know that there are instances that where politicians do dictate the outcomes of certain cases or a backlog of cases or whatnot. The point is, and what I'm trying to tell you is that we see it happen in the Kenny Anthony. 12 people lost their lives. Police officers were fired.
Hold on, Kola. I'm just remembering something pertaining to that case that you're talking about, the impacts. I recall the DPP. Do you remember the DPP had a press conference? I think it was a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, the Labour Party administration.
And he was talking about some of those same cases because, according to him, not all of them came across his desk for review, and he said that in some instances he had instructed the commissioner to arrest certain individuals for questioning, but I don't know what happened. I don't think those orders were ever carried out, or he had suggested. I'm not sure.
He said something on the lines of, I don't want to the amount of proportion, but he said something like most of those things are not relevant to that sort. But the thing is, Angie, the Americans still are not buying it because we're, to my knowledge, up to this day, we're still under sanctions, and the only person that tried, and what he did, Alan Shastney, was for us to get new boats and for us to protect our waters.
Yeah.
He separated Marine forces from the Royal St. Lucia Police Force and given it own unit.
Well, what he really did was to advocate that those units in the police force that were not involved in Operation Restore Confidence, that they not be penalized, and the Marine unit was one of them. So the Marine unit has their training, the Leahy laws have been lifted from them. They receive training and everything, but the others, all the Americans are asking for is that we conclude the investigation, we conclude the inquest, we prosecute who has to be prosecuted, and we clear who has to be cleared. But even that is proving difficult. Yeah, but there's a reason why it cannot be done, Kola. Because there is something, and we're even at risk, because I was thinking about that recently, that we are even at risk of having this happen with the Joyce and Duma case. You see, there is something called I don't know if you notice that in certain high-profile murder cases, certain cases that require a jury, you've heard that in other countries they sequester juries when these things happen, so they don't let them listen to the news, they don't let them read newspapers and stuff like that. That is to ensure that the perpetrator gets a fair trial. And I was worried about that recently in the Joyce and Tuma case, because so much is coming to light on this young lady's struggle. Even today I heard some stories that really just broke my heart. So much. This young lady went through so much, and talking about it in the news, putting these things out there, in a way it can affect the outcome of the case, because if the jury already knows this, you don't want them going into the trial with any preconceived notions that can affect how they vote, or you understand, because they vote on the outcome of the case. And when Dr. Kenny Anthony, who by the way is an officer of the court, an experienced officer who was a law lecturer, who should know better, when he read that impacts report out into the nation the way he did, he effectively shot that case dead in the water. And that is why we've never been able to move on, because he did it in a way that he compromised the case, which is why they tell you that when certain cases have to be in the court, you're not allowed to speak on them. And Kenny Anthony knew this. Dr. Anthony knew this very well. So by coming...
No, he's not being held accountable, Angie.
No, he's not. No, he is not. And caller, let me tell you something. You hit the nail right on the head by saying that. Because Dr. Kenny Anthony, in my view, purposely tanked that case. He purposely made it for short-term political expediency, that this case would never go anywhere. It would be dead in the water. And I believe the person we should be holding accountable is the officer of the court who knowingly compromised such an impactful case.
Now, Angie, based on why I called you as well, I didn't want it to stray from some lose my chain of thought. Is that those cases, like I told you, we see the outcry for we saw the outcry for recent Omar, and there are many cases similar murders, women, the same thing, and it's the same dry cry. And the reason why I brought up the impact report and said Omar today is that 12 individuals actually lost their lives.
Yeah.
You understand? It was 12 homicides. That is why Mary Francis, for most of her career, ending of her career, maybe about 10, 20 years, 15 years, I've been speaking about those 12 murders.
Yeah.
And what the impact report said in it. And today we are finding ourselves in the same sad predicament. And you know, that's the problem. We tend to bypass the root of the problem and
treat the symptoms. Yeah.
I'm talking about the problem with people that don't even know about the problem. You understand? So in other words, we seem to bypass our courts. We seem to bypass our judicial system. I watch a thing of JD Japierre, what's her name?
Yeah, JD Japierre. You're right. That's the name. Yeah, JD Japierre.
She put out a post on Facebook. I read that post, and she's saying basically, it is not the justice system fault. We are understaffed. With this, with that, and I'm like, but wait, Julia, that is your people that there, you know. Talk to Philip Japierre to staff on the DPP office. And I heard they're putting necessary things in place and whatnot. But Angie, when we have over 700 people on remand, or 600 inmates on remand, and maybe 100 fixing time, you understand, a backlog of cases and whatnot. And you know, we're in senior ministers like Sarah Flood is calling for international
intervention.
Which will not happen with international. So the problem for me, the root cause of the problem is the system. So no matter if it's SLP that's in there, the problem will still be the same, whether it's UWP or SLP. But I believe the leaders who have to make the decision making, whether it's in the UWP or SLP, have a vested interest for the system to be like that. Because Susie Bovey came before she died, wrote what needs to be changed in our constitution.
Yeah.
And one of the calls we need was the power of recall, the power of recall. That was one of the things we put on.
Hello.
By Susie Bovey. So politicians cannot just go ahead and do whatever they want to do on whatnot. And there are other recommendations by Susie Bovey that would have us in a better situation than what we are today. So when Sharkey had the chance to put in those types of super transformational changes in the country, he didn't do it, just like Kenny Anthony didn't do it, just like Philip J. Pierre didn't do it. It was 3 prime ministers under impacts, they passed through impacts, who slightly touch impacts, who didn't touch impacts, who blame who. But the point is, we still have the same problem today. And that is why when I talk about Susie Bovey, if you can go ahead and look up some of the recommendations that Susie Bovey made for our constitution, then you will realize I'm not even feeling sorry for anybody that what is happening in the country. Because I had my fair share of my brothers I'm getting murdered for gun violence. I had family members who died at the Owen King Hospital because they didn't have equipment to get to remove the fluid from the brain. So he died with a brain tumor at 1 year old. This is everyday life in St. Lucia. And for thousands of years, we've been speaking about the same problems and the same crisis. And yet still the leaders we put in place to fix up those problems are playing ignorant because they figure out somewhere, somehow, hanging on to power would be the best thing for short-term politics instead of long-term resilience. Just like I watch, instead of long-term resilience, they keep on having us in a perpetual cycle of dependency and government being the biggest employer in the country. And it will just be lost.
So you're saying that times may change, but the more things change, the more they remain the same. But you said something. You said that Susie Bovey made something about said something about a recall, and you cut out. I didn't hear. Could you just repeat that part?
The power of recall.
Yes,
the power of recall. That was one of the recommendations, which was one of the most powerful parts of it, of Susie Bovey recommendations for. She had a number of recommendations.
What does that mean exactly? The power of recall. I don't think people understand what that means. Could you elaborate further?
Well, the power of recall is basically when you have what is happening in the Philip JP administration. Like, for example, they call the election in 2025, and most people don't know all the problems that was on the horizon for 2026. But the Philip JP administration and the hierarchy of the Labour Party knew everything that was coming on stream, which is like the visa restrictions and all what is happening today. Understand? So, if recall, then the people in those constituencies would have a voice to go and vote and no confidence against those guys. You understand? But it's more complicated than that.
Right.
But the power of recall, if this politician is not doing a good job, the people have the power to take him out before the 5-year end and before the 5-year cycle. You understand? And that is one of the main recommendations we campaigned for. I remember myself, all of us used to be talking about that before the 2016 general elections, before Alan Shastner became Prime Minister. And that was one of the recommendations we said on the campaign that, hey, this is something you must do, Alan Shastner, because if you do not do that, we'll end up with more problems than we are already in. And when you get a fix of power, and then probably they had the fear that the opposition will come with a way to remove us out of power. But the power of recall is more complicated than that. It's not just like that. People can just remove the minister from power. But what is happening now, like for example in CIP and whatnot, we're getting restrictions left, right, and center. And NSC they're continuously saying that he's going to continue the CIP, even if the solution massive do not want him to continue with it. But if we have the power of recall, then when we can
make
stop,
a difference. Okay.
you will have to stop. You understand?
I understand.
So it was vested interest by partisans to avoid a lot of Susie Dove recommendations. And I would ask you to do this for me personally, Angie, maybe for tomorrow. So get some of those recommendations by Susie Dove, and now you realize the more things change, the more it remains the same. Not for the world, just in St. Lucia remaining the same. Angie, I will tell you something before I leave. You know, from 1997 to 2026, Angie, St. Lucia have been stagnant from that time, you know.
Yep.
When you look at along the way, I can count on my fingers some of the new buildings they have in the new millennium.
It's not just stagnant. It's not just stagnant, you know, caller. If it was just stagnant, that means we stayed the same. We're regressing. We are regressing, caller. We are regressing. We are regressing. We're going back to the 60s, to the 50s, to the 40s. Could you imagine in 2026, we open our pipes and not even air comes out? Can you imagine in 2026, I'm going to the emergency room and I'm seeing a urinal full of pee in front of the doors outside the hospital, like the welcome mat? In 2026, an infestation of bed bugs. Caller, when was the last time you heard anybody talk about bed bugs? I know whole generations of children that don't even know what a bed bug looks like.
I remember bed bugs all the way back in 2010, you know, when I was in Canada for a while. They had all the buildings had an infestation of bed bugs, but when I heard bed bugs had bed bugs, I didn't say, but wow, I thought bed bugs was already extinct.
Exactly.
But exactly. It's going to show you the level of like you say, we have digressed to reach to that point.
Yeah.
And Angie, and as the government, which is the biggest employer in the country, and they have made it that way, and you know, Angie, expenditure has exceeded far much faster than revenues from the private sector.
Exactly.
You understand?
Exactly.
So at the point is, we are right now borrowing the interest. We're borrowing money to pay the interest on our loans, borrowing money to pay our civil servants, and that is not sustainable. And we have been running like that we have been running a budget deficit from other. All I just want to say, Angie, is that in my closing remarks, if we want to make a change, like I always tell the people, it's time for us, whether it's the bus driver, stand up and talk. Whether it's the nurses, stand up and talk. The only way change will be made is if when we want change to be made, Angie. And judging on the point of view I'm seeing right now,